Diabetes is a chronic disease that affects millions of people worldwide with subclassifications like type 1 and type 2. Its physiology and treatment are complex, requiring a multitude of intervention for successful management. This means that diabetes education and patient engagement are critical in management, and patients have better outcome if they can manage their diet, exercise regularly, and independently monitor their blood glucose. Unfortunately, diabetes can cause severe complications which are usually irreversible. Untreated chronic high blood sugar shortens lifespan and worsens quality of life. However, experts believe diabetes is not a death sentence because with consistent care and diligence, people with diabetes can live a happy and healthy life. Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. I'm Lydia Sampson, and this edition beams on diabetes. Our first report by Ibrahim Bello Gunda is looking at awareness creation, the impact of diabetes on people's health and opportunities. This report also dug deeper into the prospect of strengthening prevention, diagnosis and treatment of diabetes. Correspondent Bello reviews education, patients' protection and why increasing access to quality treatment of diabetes. Well, let me allow Ibrahim Bello Gunda continue from here.
Diabetes is a health condition that affects how the body turns food into energy due to too much sugar or glucose in type 1 diabetes, or a condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. There are about 537 million people living with diabetes worldwide, with 11.2 million and 1 out of every 17 adults in Nigeria living with diabetes, according to International Diabetes Federation estimates. Medical experts and stakeholders say the number of people living with diabetes is increasing among all age groups. More worrisome is the fact that people living with diabetes are sometimes unaware and do not get diagnosed until complications start manifesting.
I do not think we have enough awareness to prevent the spread of diabetes because there are a lot of lifestyle changes that we need to put in place: healthy diet, exercise, physical activity, avoiding smoking, which we need to actually promote for people to know, because you don't have to wait till you are diagnosed with diabetes before you already start putting into effect these lifestyle changes.
Diabetes nowadays is found in almost every family. In each family, there is somebody who is diabetic, whether it's a parent, uncle, or sibling. And that shows that it is growing at an alarming rate.
We do not have specific policies, the correct policies that will actually make diabetes a happier disease to live with. The second issue is the fact that the cost of care, and when I say cost of care, people are just talking about medications, but diabetes is beyond medication. It is a whole lifestyle, which means that the commodities required for the care, either in terms of monitoring blood sugar and also doing other necessarily investigation to check for complications, as well as the appropriate treatment, are very exorbitant, especially with the recent increase in the rates of the dollar.
I think we need more enlightenment, because in the city, urban areas like this, a lot of times when we are really active, we go to hospitals in the cities. But how about those at rural areas? We don't have enough awareness. We need more education, even as regards diets and the way what we eat. Sometimes we think it's a pleasure or, good affluence. We need more enlightenment.
They reiterate the need for access to quality treatment worldwide. Hence, global campaigns are focusing on access to diabetes care.
In the hospitals, yes, there is diagnosis, but the access to this is not available to everybody. So we need to raise more awareness for people to have better access with free health care, to be able to go to the hospitals whenever they have symptoms without thinking of the cost. The symptoms of diabetes: frequent urination, excessive thirst, sudden weight loss, always feeling hungry. So all these symptoms, sometimes you also have tingling of the fingers and of the feet. So most times, before the symptoms even start manifesting, people do not have any symptoms.
There's a great need for the public health sector to pay attention and prioritize diabetes management in this country in order for diabetic patients to find it easier to manage their condition. And more so, it is very paramount for the government to give free medical care to people with diabetes, like what is found or attention given to people living with polio and HIV.
Most of the diabetic patients do treat themselves out of pocket, which means they do not have any subsidy from anywhere. They depend on what them and members of the family generate. The national health insurance coverage is very low in the country, and there is no specific policy that actually favors people living with diabetes who are known to have a very lifelong diseases. And of course, many of the patients do not even have the means of livelihood. And where they have the means of livelihood, because the rest of the family depend on them, whenever they are down, the whole family is down. So these are the economic challenges also that are there for the, but I think one of the key things also is the low level of awareness among the members of the populace about what diabetes is all about, what are the risk factors, and what need to be done to prevent and remain healthy.
Those that are already that have brought themselves forward to be examined. Normally, when you do the blood test, the glucose test, then it will show the level of where they are. So once they are diagnosed, they will commence them appropriately. But there's a snag. The snag is that some may not be able to afford the medication. That is it. So the appropriate medication. So, and since if you are a doctor, you don't prescribe and you buy for the patients.
Dietary restrictions are part of new lifestyle that newly diagnosed diabetes patients need to embrace, in addition to the challenge of how to live positively with diabetic condition.
The fact that diabetics hasn't been confirmed that it has got a cure, it is very important for anybody who is being diagnosed to have a diabetics to accept it, to face reality. If you deny it, it's going to do more harm. So the fact that you accept that diabetics is real, and then you change your lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle disease. So it is very important for somebody who has diabetes to adopt a very healthy lifestyle with healthy eating habits for him to manage diabetic and live economically and socially well and strong.
There are dietary restrictions that people have to put in place, but I prefer not to talk about it as restrictions. I prefer to look at it as a lifestyle modification which everybody actually has to put in place, because it's about eating healthy. So avoiding sugar, avoiding things that have high saturated fats like cream, using more vegetable oil, eating at least a fruit or vegetables every day with your meals. So all these things are actually things that everybody can actually do, but in particular people with diabetes have to put it in place to actually control the diabetes.
Economic situation is biting almost everywhere anyway, because as you rightly said, we have not been able to even meet up with the basic. How much more when you now have to take something special. Then awareness, in the sense, sometimes it's not the expense of the food, it's the awareness and knowing the right thing to take.
There is monotony in defining or actually saying that one should limit himself to certain amount of feeding. So people have that psychological component. They are not comfortable that they have to restrict. Secondly, they need to eat different varieties of food which are actually expensive. So if people do not have, when people are struggling to eat, whatever they get, they will eat. And it becomes very difficult to actually comply.
30 minutes sought to find out if diabetes is hereditary and what is expected of those with family history of diabetes.
Diabetes is hereditary, but it is not like myself. I'm not diabetic. My mom was diabetic, and most of her family, my maternal side, they were diabetes. But it's lifestyle. Well, I was lucky in the way that because I was in the military, so it becomes normal. It's a routine thing to be on your feet most of the time. So you have to be lifestyle. The awareness that I come from a family with diabetes, and you modify your lifestyle, exercising, taking low carbohydrate, right? vegetable, fruits. You have to be aware of what it takes to be healthy.
Of course, there are genetic predispositions that make people predisposed to diabetes, but it's not as if it's hereditary in the sense that once your parents have it, you must have it. But you are predisposed if you have family history of diabetes.
They called on policymakers to ease the burden on diabetic patients as well as ensure they live a normal life.
Well, I think policymakers can put in place free access to healthcare, more awareness promotion for people to actually be screened and to do regular checkups to actually pick up the diabetes on time.
Passing a bill to say diabetes patients, they should not have fear that if they come, they won't be able to pay. They should come. They are going to be treated free. The policy is for the government to assist those who are diagnosed to be treated and to mobilize and assist those who are on health education, health educators, and like some NGOs that are ready to go in and educate the people. Advocates, there's logistics. If we have to go to Nasarawa now, we need to go with vehicle. We need to take feeding and the rest of it.
There is the need for urgent action as studies show that Nigeria's diabetic prevalence is estimated to double by 2040 if measures are not taken to mitigate the tide.
The next report by Thomas Obetere examines findings from International Diabetes Federation, especially the data showing 1 in 10 adults worldwide suffering from diabetes, with over 90% dealing with type 2 diabetes. This report also highlights efforts by global health bodies to raise awareness on diabetes as a global public health issue and what needs to be done collectively. How can society champion the priorities of people living with diabetes, particularly in Nigeria?
I think diabetes is a very terrible disease that kills people, but I don't know about the rich, but I think I need to go for a test.
I don't think I'll even do it because the fear of doing it and knowing that I have the diabetes kills faster than me, not even than the disease. Then why would I even know something that if I know it will give me depression? I will be thinking that I have this disease. I will go into depression. The fear of it itself can kill me.
I have tested for diabetes, and it's good to go for regular tests to be able to know if your blood sugar level is high or low. And some people have diabetes and they don't even know that. That's why it's necessary to go for regular tests to be able to know if you have diabetes or not. And if you do have diabetes and you know you have it, you'll be able to start treatment on time to avoid death.
Diabetes is a metabolic disease that causes high blood sugar. The hormone insulin moves sugar from the blood to be stored and used for energy. With diabetes, the body either doesn't make enough insulin or can't effectively use the insulin it makes.
Pancreas, that is responsible, is an organ in the abdomen that is responsible for the release of insulin that helps to metabolize sugar in the body, sugar in the blood. So because that insulin is unable, that pancreas is unable to produce enough insulin to metabolize that sugar. So you find that in your bloods, that in the blood that is circulating in your body, it has a lot of sugar. Because it has a lot of sugar, it becomes more thicker than it's supposed to be. And then the circulation will now become difficult to circulate very well. And that is why sometimes, even if it is moving with force, it develops turbulence.
Insulin resistance is a condition whereby body is not able to utilize the insulin that is available in the body, or pancreas is not able to produce insulin. And insulin is responsible to break down the blood glucose to a minute form that the body will use as energy. So the blood glucose will now increase inside the bloodstreams and is dangerous to all organs of the body. And the heart is the one that carry oxygenated blood to the body. So if the sugar is in the blood, the heart pump it to every part. And there are some parts that, this blood sugar is not supposed to be found in, in all the parts of the body. But because insulin could not work on it, it will now go around the body. It can destroy even the heart itself. It can affect the kidney itself. It can affect our eye, affect the hearing. It affects every part of the body. Another causes of diabetics is, pancreas disease.
In cases like type 1 diabetes, the immune system attacks and destroys cells in the pancreas. In type 2 diabetes, the body becomes resistant to insulin and sugar builds up in the blood. Data from the International Diabetes Federation underscores the global prevalence of diabetes, with 1 in 10 adults affected primarily by type 2 diabetes. This highlights the significant health challenge it poses globally.
The International Diabetes Federation is about the largest organization in the world that does advocacy for diabetic patients. And this is the figure quoted from 2021, because they bring out figures every 2 years. So we're expecting new figures this year, that 1 in 10 adults aged 20 to 79 has diabetes, and 90% of these patients have type 2. So what this goes to show us is that there's a large number of patients who have diabetes worldwide. The number is estimated to be 537 million worldwide having diabetes, mostly the type 2, like we've said, and that 3 in 4 of these patients are in middle and large and low income countries like our country, Nigeria. So we're really bearing a lot of this burden. And also that we have 6.7 million patients that died in 2021 of diabetes, and 1 person in 5 seconds dies from diabetes. Every 5 seconds, there's 1 person dying.
Diabetes is one of the leading causes of death in the world. Global statistics indicates that Nigeria has one of the highest number of persons with diabetes today, meaning average Nigerian household has diabetes or diabetes scar, which requires a multifaceted approach involving governments, healthcare providers, NGOs, and individuals. Collaboration, experts say, enhances resources, knowledge to tackle this widespread health challenge effectively.
When we come closer down home to Africa, there are about 24 million people, these figures I'm quoting from 2021, with diabetes, adults aged 20 to 79. And then in Nigeria, back home again, we have 11.7 million people, adults suffering from diabetes. So when you look at the figures, the importance of this statement is that there are so many people with diabetes, and that's not the end of it. There are further 541 million with impaired glucose tolerance. And these are people who are like borderline. They're at risk of becoming diabetic, so they're about to cross over. So when you add up all these figures, you see the figures are enormous. It may seem like we don't have large figures in Africa and Nigeria, but it's estimated that our figures are going to rise a lot, by over 100% in the next few years. So it's a lot of burden.
And there is this relationship of diabetes with other chronic illnesses, not only hypertension. There is also relationship now between diabetes and TB. The reason is simple, because diabetes is a metabolic disorder, and it is also making the person to be prone to less immunity. Then when that person gets in contact with somebody having tuberculosis or even common respiratory tract infection, any infectious disease, it tends to catch the person who is having diabetes. So now, there is, Nigeria, we have policy on diabetes, on non-communicable diseases in general, and diabetes is one of them. So now, anybody that comes to the facility is now a policy in Nigeria after testing you for diabetes, they have to also test you for TB. And then you are also to be tested for hypertension. They check your blood pressure. So these are the key three things now that are together. And it's cascaded down from tertiary institution, secondary institution, as well as primary institution.
Our lifestyle also contributes to the diabetics, especially people that are obese. Lack of exercise is also part of what can become a factor. Then there is issue of hereditary. We all need to ask our parents. Maybe our immediate parents did not have, but sometimes maybe the older generation have it. So we need to check the history, because if it runs in a family, is a pointer that one might have it. But it's not a death sentence if one have diabetes.
Expert, while adding that most diabetes patients also suffer from non-healing wounds, which leads to amputation. They are emphatic that awareness is key, hence the use of the blue cycle logo, representing unity and solidarity in the fight against diabetes. It was introduced by the International Diabetes Federation to raise awareness and promote a sense of global community in addressing the challenges associated with diabetes. This is a global health body engaged in awareness campaigns, research initiatives, and policy advocacy to address diabetes.
The blue cycle, which is our logo for diabetes, or we use it each year to celebrate the World Diabetes Day, it actually symbolizes health, life, health, and unity. It was brought forward by the International Diabetes Federation in 2006, to celebrate this life, health, and unity. In many cultures, a cycle is a symbol of unity. When people hold hands in a cycle, it symbolizes unity. So that was why the idea for this logo came about. And this is what it symbolizes, that these are the diabetic patients holding hands together, supporting each other, including the healthcare providers and the other people in society who are taking care of them or helping with educating them and so on. So we're together in a cycle. Often when we have activities, like on the World Diabetes Day, you see us, holding hands in a cycle, wearing blue to signify this. So that's what it really stands for.
They reiterate that collective efforts by government, the private sector, and other stakeholders should focus on prevention, education, and access to health care, adding that more support is needed to make these initiatives widely accessible, as society can champion the priority of people living with diabetes by promoting all-round education about diabetes and managing it for people already living with diabetes. They are advocating for policies that support diabetes care and ensuring inclusivity in the global diabetes compact.
You only see people when they've had, they're having foot ulcer, gangrene, then they come to you. They're having kidney disease, they're having stroke. So we need to do a lot more. We're not saying government alone. We need to do a lot more. Civil societies, organizations, NGOs, different bodies, whoever. We need to do a lot more sensitization.
We should avoid sedentary life. We should avoid too much sugar. Sugar is good for the body, but it should not be in excess.
Diabetic is not a death sentence. Even if you have it, if you start your treatment very early, you will get treated and you'll be fine and you will live a normal life, even to a very ripe old age.
Experts also highlighted the multifaceted impact of diabetes, emphasizing the importance of awareness on the need for lifestyle modification and updates on ongoing research, fostering a collective commitment to healthcare, while experts are working towards a future where the prevalence of diabetes is diminished and individuals affected can lead a healthier, more fulfilling life.
Now, managing diabetes is crucial to living a long and healthy life. This experts say involves managing blood glucose, blood pressure, and cholesterol levels, as well as being physically active and receiving regular health care from a team of professionals. Diabetes can affect almost every part of the body, so it is important to take steps to prevent illness and manage the condition effectively. While there is no cure for diabetes, losing weight, eating healthy food, and being active can help, along with taking medication as prescribed. Most importantly, if you have diabetes, it is important to avoid foods high in sugar and carbohydrate, as they can cause spikes in blood sugar levels. Smoking is also a red flag if the goal is to prevent long-term complications. That's it on 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. Until next week, when we shall x-ray another topic, stay safe. I'm Lydia Sams.